This channel has now documented 111 individual cases of American institutional failure expressed in real estate. The failures span 150 years. Every major American city, every real estate asset class, every category of institutional actor from private equity to sovereign wealth funds to federal regulatory agencies to the United States Congress. The pattern is not subtle. American institutional history produces one architectural cycle, repeated with variation, across every generation of economic expansion. An institution achieves commercial success, expresses that success in physical infrastructure at a scale that reflects its confidence in the permanence of its competitive position, levers the physical infrastructure to fund continued expansion, encounters the market disruption or credit event that its leverage cannot survive, and loses the physical infrastructure to the creditors, regulators, or market conditions that the leverage had made it vulnerable to. The buildings remain. The institutions are replaced. The cycle repeats. This is not a novel observation. American architectural historians, urban economists, and financial regulators have each documented variants of this pattern from their respective disciplinary perspectives. What this channel has done across 111 case files is documented from a single integrated perspective, forensic, specific, and grounded in the specific financial transaction records that allow the pattern's individual instances to be precisely measured. This episode formalizes the pattern, the architectural collapse cycle. The cycle has 4 stages. The expression stage, in which success produces physical infrastructure at a scale calibrated to the institution's peak confidence. The leverage stage, in which the physical infrastructure is used as collateral to fund continued expansion at terms calibrated to peak performance projections. The disruption stage, in which market, credit, or competitive disruption reduces the institution's performance below the leverage's service requirements. And the transfer stage, in which the physical infrastructure transfers to new control, lender, bankruptcy estate, public agency, or competing institution, while the cycle's next iteration begins. Subscribe now, because this is the episode that connects all 111 of the others. The expression stage of the architectural collapse cycle is the most visible and most frequently misread stage, because its physical products, the flagship headquarters, the signature stadium, the Grand Hotel, are designed to communicate permanence and are interpreted as evidence of institutional health by the observers who encounter them during their construction. The Sears Tower, documented in case file 033, was completed in 1973 at the moment that Sears's retail competitive position was beginning its terminal decline. The building expressed the confidence of a company at its peak. The company's decline began before the building was occupied. The Trump Taj Mahal, documented in case file 14, opened in April 1990 as the most expensive casino in American history. It filed for bankruptcy 11 months later. The building expressed peak leverage, not peak institutional health. The WorldCom campus, documented in case file 0722, was completed in 2001 as the $500 million physical expression of an institution that had been fabricating its earnings for years. The campus expressed manufactured confidence. The criminal proceedings documented it. In each case, the physical infrastructure's scale communicated institutional confidence that the underlying financial condition did not support. The expression stage's specific forensic characteristic is that the physical expression of confidence and the actual financial condition it expresses are not required to match. A company can build a tower while it is failing, and the tower will communicate permanence regardless. This specific characteristic makes the expression stage a leading indicator of the disruption stage in many cases. The most ambitious construction projects in any institutional cycle frequently occur at or near the peak of the leverage cycle that funds them, making the most architecturally ambitious buildings the most likely candidates for the forensic examination that documents the gap between what they communicated and what the financial records behind them revealed. The leverage stage of the architectural collapse cycle is the mechanical engine that connects the expression stage's physical ambition to the disruption stage's financial failure. And it is the stage that this channel has most comprehensively documented across its archive. The debt service coverage ratio covenant breach that case file 060 documents as the hotel bankruptcy anatomy's universal trigger mechanism is the leverage stage's specific financial instrument. The CMBS securitization structure that case file 070 documents as the 2008 crisis's transmission mechanism is the leverage stage's specific financial infrastructure. The construction loan trap that case file 069 documents as the mechanism by which ambition creates exposure is the leverage stage's specific vulnerability to credit market disruption. The leverage stage is not produced by incompetence. Every private equity acquisition in this channel's archive was executed by sophisticated financial professionals, applying the best available analytical frameworks to the best available data. The leverage stage is produced by the combination of two structural features that are simultaneously present in every institutional boom cycle: the availability of capital at terms calibrated to peak performance projections, and the rational incentive to deploy available capital at available terms before the cycle turns. Both features are present simultaneously at the top of every credit cycle. The capital is available. The terms reflect peak projections. The rational response to available capital at favorable terms is to deploy it. Every institution in this channel's archive that deployed capital at cycle peak terms experienced the disruption stage when the cycle turned. That is not a performance failure. That is the leverage stage working as designed. The disruption stage is the stage that most of this channel's individual case files document in detail. The specific market disruption, credit event, or competitive shift that converts a sustainable leverage position at peak performance into an unsustainable leverage position at trough performance. The disruptions this channel has documented are heterogeneous in their specific character. Commodity price collapse for Houston in case file 092. Credit market seizure for the Fontainebleau Las Vegas in case file 087. Retail format disruption for Montgomery Ward in case file 102. Digital photography disruption for Polaroid in case file 110. Political regulatory action for Valent in case file 005. And the aggregate of all those mechanisms simultaneously for the 2008 financial crisis in case file 070. The heterogeneity of specific disruptions is the disruption stage's forensic complexity and its strategic uselessness for prediction. The specific disruption that any individual leverage position will encounter cannot be predicted with the precision that the leverage position's calibration requires. What can be predicted is that a disruption will occur within any sufficiently extended holding period, and that the leverage position's vulnerability to that disruption is a function of how precisely it was calibrated to the peak performance projections that preceded it. This specific characteristic, the impossibility of predicting the disruption while the certainty of its eventual occurrence remains high, is why the leverage stage's institutions are not irrational. They are making bets whose expected value at the time of the bet is positive and whose worst case outcome is the disruption stage failure that this channel documents. The institutions that succeed are those whose leverage allowed them to survive the specific disruption they encountered. The institutions that fail are in this channel's archive. The transfer stage is the stage that this channel's archive has documented most consistently as the stage that closes one cycle and opens the next. The physical infrastructure changes hands. The new institutional owner begins the next iteration of the expression stage, and the cycle continues. At the Copley Plaza, Boston, documented in case file 071, has transferred through multiple ownership cycles, each new owner paying a premium reflecting the building's civic premium, each debt structure failing to sustain that premium through a full operating cycle. each transfer enabling the next iteration's premium payment. The Arizona Biltmore, documented in case file 062, has cycled through multiple institutional owners across 95 years of operation, each beginning their iteration in the expression stage with a renovation that expresses their institutional confidence, and each encountering the leverage stage's specific vulnerabilities before the transfer stage delivers the property to the next institutional owner. What the architectural collapse cycle reveals in the context of this channel's 112 case archive is not a pessimistic finding about institutional failure. It is an accurate structural description of how American institutional capitalism manages the relationship between physical permanence and institutional impermanence, using the transfer stage to reallocate physical assets from institutions whose leverage has been disrupted to institutions whose capital position allows them to begin the next iteration. The cycle does not eliminate value, it transfers it. The buildings that survive every cycle in this channel's archive, the ones that are still there, still occupied, still expressing institutional confidence under some new owner's banner, are the specific evidence that the transfer stage is not failure. It is the mechanism by which the cycle continues. The institution fails. The building begins its next case file. This content was developed using artificial intelligence tools as part of the research, writing, and production process. All AI-generated material was subject to human review, editorial intervention, and approval before publication.